In October 1981, 27-year-old son Clarence Ray Hudgins was murdered outside his house in front of his wife and child. And before the men who committed the crime shot Ray, they set up 3 bombs under his trailer that would explode in the middle of the night, causing a fire inside of Ray's home. His wife would run to save her child, not knowing that her husband had been killed by men who remain unknown to this day. The life of Clarence Ray Hudgins. On June 22, 1954, Clarence Ray Hudgins was born to parents Catherine and Kenneth. The Hudgins family was tightly knit by their love. Ray spent his childhood days playing with his sister and 3 brothers. He spent his time as a kid carefree, smiling and laughing through life. Ray soon tied the knot at age 18 and had a son early in his marriage. However, the marriage lasted less than 2 years. Soon after the divorce, Ray understood his duty as a father and focused solely on providing for his son. He pursued oil field work, which is known as a profession that can be financially rewarding if an individual seriously dedicates his life to it. In 1997, Ray married once again and had another boy, which he named Ray Jr. After working for a series of oil companies, Ray set out to start his own oil company, which he named Oilfield Sandblasting and Coating Co. His company's rise to success was quick and smooth, but calling it an overnight success will be a bit of an exaggeration. Ray was living a financially secure life, providing for his sons and his family. However, his line of work made him face several competitors, some of which will prove to be deadly. Some of his competitors were committed to staying on top of the game of the oil business, even if it meant taking the life of a father, a husband, and a man who wanted to succeed in his business. As Ray's business guaranteed him easy success, his competitors did not welcome him with open arms. Rather, his competitors in the oil business welcomed him with a warning of destroying Ray's equipment. Ray's friend and competitor was well aware that their equipment would be destroyed by the bigger fish in the sea. The two of them thought that leasing land and keeping security guards were the only ways to combat the corrupt forces in the business. So, in 1979, Ray decided to lease 2 acres in Kilgore near the Texas state highways. He brought his equipment to the land and built his office there. He made his home in a trailer near the office and lived with his wife, Phyllis, and his kid, Ray Jr. Hiring a guard was costly, so Ray had to involve his family members in his business matters. His brothers and mother would take turns to watch the property and inform Ray about any potential threats. Despite taking several security measures, Ray's mother, Catherine, claimed that her son was not being paranoid. He was instead just conscious of his competitors' evil plans to bring him down. Little did Catherine know, her son would be eaten up by the sharks in the sea without a warning. In early March of 1981, Ray got a call from his friend who was in the same business. He warned Ray that 2 men are coming in their car, which was a red and white Ford, to blow up his equipment. Ray had his equipment hidden on his sister Jerry's property, which was right across from his home. However, nothing eventful happened that day. The day of the murder. It was a typical day on Friday, October 16, 1981. But something was off about Ray's behavior. He left his trailer in the morning for his office and came back at 11 a.m. to have lunch with his wife, Phyllis. As soon as Ray sat down, he put his head on the table and looked incredibly bothered by something. Phyllis tried to cheer him up, but Ray would not crack a smile. After finishing his lunch, Ray turned to his office, and when he came back home in the evening, his demeanor hadn't changed. Phyllis was worried about her husband but did not want to push him to talk. She assumed it was business that worried him, not knowing the tragedy that was about to strike her that night. That evening, Ray's uncle LeBroy with his family came over to visit. The 2 families did a fish fry to raise Ray's spirits up a little bit. LeBroy and Ray reminisced about old times, and for a brief moment, Ray had forgotten what troubled him that day. After dinner, Phyllis gave the children some ice cream and asked them to eat it on the porch so that they would not make a mess inside. 10 minutes passed when suddenly Ray inquired about the children. Phyllis told him the children were out on the porch eating ice cream. A flicker of horror passed on Ray's face as he asked Phyllis to bring the kids back into the house immediately. Later, the guests took leave and Ray was left alone with his family. The atmosphere of their house was tense, and Phyllis knew something was deeply troubling her husband. Despite her best efforts to make her husband talk, Ray remained quiet about the situation. Later, Phyllis put their son to bed, and soon the couple fell asleep in their bedroom as well. Sometime after, Phyllis woke up to the sound of her 4-year-old son crying in his room. He told his mum that he had heard frightening noises in their backyard. Phyllis brought him to her bedroom and fell asleep again, only to be woken up again by another alarming movement in their home. It seemed like someone was looking inside their bedroom window with a flashlight. Phyllis then heard an explosion sound come from the back of her house. It felt like the explosion had started a fire. As Phyllis shook Ray to wake up, telling him the house was on fire, someone rang the doorbell. Ray immediately called the Kilgore Fire Department and Phyllis stood up to open her door. As she went near the door to reach for the doorknob, Ray ran towards her, telling her not to open the door. Phyllis ran to her bedroom to pick her son as the house began to fill with smoke from the explosion. Ray led his family out onto the porch with a flashlight in his hand. As the family stepped out of the house, gunshots targeted Ray and Phyllis ran inside, with her son into the living room. She shouted for Ray to come back inside, but 2 more gunshots pierced through her husband's flesh. Phyllis immediately called Ray's mother, Catherine Hudgins, and told her that her son had been shot. Phyllis ran out of the house with her son and hid near the office that was right beside the mobile home. Shortly after, Ray's parents turned up and called the Kilgore Police Department and the Fire Department. As the firefighters extinguished the fire, the Gregg County and Kilgore Police Departments went up to the 27-year-old Ray's dead body to examine the crime scene. An autopsy was done some days after Ray's murder, which confirmed he had been shot to death. However, many investigations later, Ray's case went cold for several years because there was no exact route to follow to catch Ray's killers. 2 years after this case went cold, the arrest of a man in Montague County changed the course of this murder. 47-year-old Henry Lee Lucas, known for allegedly killing hundreds of people during the decade of 1960 and 1970, admitted to killing Clarence Ray Hudgins. However, when Henry Lee Lucas was prisoned and investigated for the murders, he accepted any and every crime that the investigators inquired him about, admitting to murders that were unsolved, including Ray's case. Henry made headlines all over the US for committing heinous killings. Looking to clear the books and solve the impossible cases, the officers went ahead with Henry's statements without much inquiry. Catherine Hudgins couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. Her son Ray had been receiving threatening phone calls which messed with his mind each passing day. 2 weeks before his murder, Ray called his mother and asked her if she would quit her job and work for him instead. Catherine was happy to help her son in every way possible. But before she could do anything about the situation, her son had already been murdered. On the evening of October 16, 1981, Ray brought a box filled with paperwork to his mother's house. He told her to keep it safe and that if anything happened to him, she would need the papers inside the box to prove who had committed the crime. Catherine did not know the intensity of her son's words that day. Soon she would find out what Ray meant while leaving the boxes to her. He entrusted her with solving his own murder case. Soon after, Catherine received the news that no mother should ever have to hear. Her son had been shot and killed in cold blood. The investigators had turned up a false confession from the serial killer Henry Lee Lucas. However, Catherine knew that something about his confession was not right. She had seen the paperwork in the boxes that her son left in her safety, and not once did Henry Lee Lucas's name appear in those papers. Catherine was determined to find out who had really killed her son. For almost 40 years, she searched for answers, gathering evidence and going through her son's business to find out clues. She refused to let her son's killer get away with the murder, even when the police seemed to have given up on the case. All the years of her life, Catherine fought like a warrior with the difficulties life threw her way. Her illness and the death of her loved ones were life-changing events for her, but she mustered up the courage to stand back up after every hardship God sent her way. However, the murder of her son Ray is the only death that defined what she will dedicate her life to. Seeking justice and solving the case on her own, Catherine will be the only one to fight the battles against the demons who killed her beloved son, Ray. For over 4 decades, Catherine had been on a mission to solve her son's murder. Determined to bring closure to her family, Catherine is solving Ray's case on her own. She claims her son's murder had 1 suspect left and 2 of them had already died. One of her theories says that her son had been murdered by the East Texas Mafia, who wanted to expand their own interests. However, Ray's murder remains unsolved several decades later despite all of her hard work.